Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating philosophical concept from the writings of Su Fang. It's called the way of nature. And honestly, it might just change the way you look at your everyday struggles. So let me just ask you, do you ever feel like you're just constantly swimming upstream? Like life is this huge uphill battle, leaving you feeling anxious or restless or just kind of unhappy? Yeah, that feeling is way more common than you think. Well, the philosophy we're digging into today says there's a very simple but really profound reason for all that struggle. It argues that these feelings aren't random. They're actually symptoms that we're living in opposition to this fundamental cosmic flow, something it calls the way of nature. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack what it actually means to live against the current. Then, we're going to look at the two very different paths that nature lays out. After that, we get practical with a 16-character guide to get you back in sync. And finally, we'll explore what it really means to live in that flow. So first things first, let's get a real handle on this core idea. What in the world is the way of nature? The source defines it as, basically, the universe's underlying program. You can think of it like an invisible operating system that's running everything, automatically, totally effortlessly. From a tiny seed sprouting to a massive star exploding, it's all just part of this natural, preset procedure. And here is the absolute core of the whole idea. When our lives are aligned with this program, things just get simple, easy, happy. But the moment we start fighting it, trying to force outcomes, our lives get tangled up, complex, difficult, and yeah, filled with pain. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The source material paints this picture of two completely different paths for living. It's a really stark contrast between harmony and resistance. Let's check it out. I mean, just look at this. On one side, you've got a life that's calm, simple, happy, and healthy. That's the path of alignment. And on the other side, a life of anxiety, complexity, worry, and trouble. That's the path of resistance. The whole philosophy here is that our inner world is a direct mirror of whichever path we're walking on. And to bring this down from the clouds, the text uses these super simple everyday examples. Following the way means sleeping when it's time to sleep, not forcing yourself to pull an all-nighter. It means doing the work you're truly meant to do, not the job you think you're supposed to want. It's this deep acceptance of the natural rhythm of things, even life and death itself. You know, the source even tries to put some numbers on this. It references the Hawking scale of consciousness and suggests that living in tune with nature puts your energy level way up there, above 540. That's the zone of love and joy. But living against it, that keeps you stuck below 200, down in states like anger, fear, and pride. Okay, so if one path is clearly the one we want to be on, how do we actually walk it? Well, the source offers a really practical 4-part guide for how to do exactly that. The entire philosophy gets boiled down into this beautiful 16-character guide. It's just 4 simple principles, each with 4 characters, and they're meant to be like a compass to keep you living in harmony. Let's break them down. First up, we have Sui Yu Bucho. This basically means accept your situation, whatever it is, and stop seeking for something else. Whether you're in a tiny shack or a massive palace, you find a way to live with the same sense of ease. It's about letting go of that envy, of that constant chase for what other people have, and just being yourself, right here, right now. Next is Suyuan Shun Yang. This one is all about aligning with the people and events that life naturally brings you. You don't try to force friendships or cling desperately to relationships. You accept the fundamental facts of your life, how tall you are, where you were born, not as problems to be fixed, but as just part of your unique path. The third principle is Sui Sing Wu Wei, and I love this one. It means acting according to your own true nature. A bird flies, a fish swims, a tiger hunts. It's that simple. This principle tells us to really understand our own gifts and our own limits, and to act from that authentic place instead of trying to force ourselves into a role that just doesn't fit. And finally, we have Sui Ji Ping He. This is all about timing and peace. When an opportunity naturally pops up, like spring arriving for a farmer, you act and you act decisively. But if no opportunity comes, you just remain peaceful. You stay calm, there's no anxiety, no frantic searching, you just trust that the right moments will show up when they're supposed to. So what happens when you start putting all these principles together? Well, they lead to some really profound and maybe even challenging ideas for how we live our lives and how we've built our world. This whole idea is captured perfectly in a quote from the text that might kind of blow your mind. It says, "Do not try to change others, and do not try to change yourself." The philosophy is that our basic nature, our role in this universe, is already set by that cosmic program. Trying to change it is just a useless fight against the current. And taking that logic even further, the text makes a pretty bold claim. It argues that a lot of our human systems, things like laws, national borders, even the traditional institution of marriage, actually go against the way of nature. It suggests that these systems create all these restrictions and forced behaviors that aren't aligned with our natural, free-flowing state. All right, so let's boil this all down. What are the big takeaways here? First, act within your capacity. Don't overload the truck. Second, let go of that desperate need to cling to things or control every outcome. And third, just do good things without worrying about the future, trusting that the universe's program of cause and effect will handle the results. And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. If you actually put this into practice, if you truly stopped fighting, stopped forcing, stopped trying to control everything, what in your life would change? What would it actually feel like to just go with the flow?